Hello, and welcome to the War in the Pacific, or it is the 25th of February, 1942, in the Wirraway versus Encircled play-by-mail campaign. So, as expected, he sent in a surface task force, and we swapped out the task forces he would face. Or the U.S. destroyers find a little more than they could handle. K-14, Dutch submarine operating in the Bay of Bengal, misses for convoy. Some modern British destroyers and decide to bombard Diego Garcia. Some landings at Banjarmasin to take that airfield. And limit the number of airfields I have to try to suppress on Borneo after the fall of Palembang. Still has patrol aircraft somewhere in the DEI, looks like. Thought he might try to get some fighters up. They're gonna find that they're facing Oscar sweeps instead. It looks like those hurricanes were sweeping when they ran into uh, my cap. Must have been pretty inexperienced pilots because they had the altitude advantage. Jill ended up coming out, it appears, definitely on the worst side. Damaged some of his fighters on the ground at Clark. Let's just see. This looks like the AVG was long range capping when his sweeps came in. Let's check and see. We'll have to see what the final results there were. He seems unhappy that the paratroopers have dropped on those bases, hitting Rarepur and Jamshedpur hard. You may recall paratroopers took them last turn. Looks like he has some kingfishers at Badger Basin. He did that 2 turns in a row. Didn't expect that. I stood down my fighters. Okay, let's see. So tried a little counter battery fire here. Sorry, that was at Manila to test his defenses. This is the counter battery fire, which didn't do much. Not that I was expecting that. All right. Army units are now in position for the assault. Palembang falls. Yeah. The news continues to tighten on Lasho in Burma. Cebu falls. Fewer losses this time in the artillery duel at Clark. Ah, he has Marine paratroopers. We'd flown in reinforcements to Raipur. Uh, looks like it was just enough. I'm sorry, let's check. Yeah, just enough. And the Marine paratroopers failed to take it, and they weren't they weren't going to take Jamshedpur. It's good to know he has the Marine paratroopers in India. Makes some sense, certainly. So we'll speed through this. Let's just check in. So if the Marines had been concentrated on taking Raipur, that could have ended badly for me. So if he had concentrated all his combat power, including the B-17 strike here, instead of trying to take both bases, that could have ended up uh, rough for me. Air losses and ops losses strongly favors us today. Hurricanes. So it's good. You can see even with the disastrous Kate losses, we're still better than 2-1 air to air. So um, generally speaking, day in and day out, have been quite successful. But obviously, turns like that last one really dent that. Um, which, by the way, I realized I didn't do a study of what happened there. It turns out it just had set, no surprise, set the sweeps and the escorts with the wrong range, as I was presumably messing with the cap settings. So ended up with, yeah, all those Kate losses. You can see that Zuikaku and Shokaku sped back uh, towards friendly water because friendly air cover because they essentially have no torpedo strike capability left, and I need to uh, get those squadrons starting to refill as quickly as possible because they'll be down for weeks. And I have a Jaffna invasion coming up, and now I have no no fleet carriers to support it. So it's um, consequence of that mistake. Let's check on Palembang. This is obviously always a white knuckle for the Japanese player. Looks like pretty typical mild damage to Palembang's oil and similar to refinery. So uh, sometimes you get lucky and there's no damage, but that's the oddity. In this case, mild damage is all good, and assuming we can capture and keep the oil at Magway and capture and keep the oil eventually at Lido. Lido, we're in good shape right now for oil with just uh, Miri, Brunei, Arakan, and Balikpapan. Balikpapan is our major remaining question mark as far as how those will turn out. I'm going to take Banjarmasin again, primarily just because I want to try to suppress it while trying to keep Balikpapan and an eye on Tarakan suppressed while I defend Palembang. runway damage is too high to cap at Palembang, so I'm going to have to fly in some aviation support to Jambi and long range cap over Palembang initially until I can get engineers and get this airfield fixed. In the South Pacific, our trap kind of worked. We got a couple of destroyers, but or sunk one, at least one. We sunk one. Wouldn't count on any more. I'm hoping to get cruisers, but that's the way it goes. Let's just check in elsewhere. Nothing else seems to be brewing. Go way up in North China. You can see we're closing in on Urumqi, as others have noted. Sort of a vanity project. As most people say, you can't get the oil to flow here. No worries. And is there anything else? Oh, yeah. These naval guard units will be sent to reinforce the southern prong uh, as we work on taking Manila and essentially isolating the allies at Clarkfield and Bataan until such time as it makes sense to bring in. I'll bring in inexperienced units over time and just rotate them to get experience fighting at Clark and eventually at Bataan. Anyway, that's where we are on the 26th of February, 1942. And I look forward to our next chance.